My name is Arleny Pimentel. My pronouns are she, her. I identify as a Dominican American. Please do not call me Arlene. My family is from the Dominican Republic. I speak English and what I would consider intermediate Spanish. And this is what looking bilingüe means to me.
If you can give me an overview of your journey. So I'm thinking DR to.
Okay, yeah, no. So I was born in the Dominican Republic in Santo Domingo, and I moved to the New York City when I was 3 years old to be here with my mom and my sister. I lived in the Bronx for a large period of my time. And then I went to school in Albany, New York, where I attended the College of St. Rose, which I love. And then from there, after my 4 years in college, I moved to Reading, Pennsylvania, and that is where I currently live.
And what did you study at university?
So I was an English education major. So I was certified to teach English in 7th to 12th grade. I've always loved education, and I love reading growing up. My mom could tell you I used to come home from like the public library with like stacks of books just walking by. And everyone knew me because I would carry around those stacks. But I loved reading, so I felt like that was a really clear segue into English.
And okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What's your favorite all-time book?
Oh man, you can't do that. That's like asking me what my favorite song is. There's too many to
I know.
choose
Okay, pick
from.
one. It doesn't have to be your all-time, but one of your favorite books.
One that I really love is The Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver.
Okay, I don't know it.
Yeah, I actually read it in high school. And it's so funny because my high school was Richard R. Green High School of Teaching. So you could already see how I ended up in education. But we read that book during high school and I just fell in love with it.
So you did go into education, but you didn't end up becoming a teacher. So can you tell us what changed for you there?
So after college, I moved to Reading, Pennsylvania, because my mom and my family was here at that point. And I did do some substitute teaching and I loved it. But then I realized that it's really hard to get a job at that time unless you knew someone. But then also, I realized that I really love doing what I was doing at the time, which is an assistant director at a daycare. And I kind of really enjoyed management and supervising others doing the work. And I realized that our education system sucks. We put so much work on our teachers that have nothing to do with teaching. I also was the coordinator for a parent education program called Abriendo Puertas, or Opening Doors. And so I was still in the school, still, giving out information and knowledge, which I think is what teaching is. So I kind of just took a different route. And instead of working with teenagers, I was working with families. And now I'm here at the Reading School District and I am the parent engagement facilitator. I have a whole team of parent coordinators at each school where we are kind of like the bridge, and we make sure that families have someone there that can welcome them, that can give them resources, someone that they feel comfortable with, but also someone that can make sure that their concerns are heard by the school.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, because of Reading, and you're not the first person I've interviewed from Reading, so I think anybody that's been watching, hey, yeah, I know Reading is not represented on this series, which is amazing. So, spoiler alert, there's all these, Spanish speaking families there. So it must be super useful to speak both English and Spanish. Así que, ¿tú hablas mucho español durante el día or?
Claro que sí, y no solo que es útil, ¿verdad? Pero es necesario. Me hubiera gustado que más personas hablen el español aquí en el distrito, porque en verdad tenemos muchas familias y muchas familias nuevas que vienen aquí a los Estados Unidos o al condado de Berks que no hablan inglés, y entonces cuando vamos a decir, a una escuela y no tienen a alguien ahí que hable su idioma, se hace bien difícil, porque aunque uno entienda un poquito del inglés, es bien diferente poder explicar algo en su propio idioma que tratar de entender cuál palabra usar y todo eso. Y yo lo entiendo porque para mí es bien difícil el español. I majored in English, right?
Yeah.
So my vocabulary in English is pretty good. It's okay. But then trying to transfer all of that into Spanish is really difficult for me. So algunas veces yo estoy pensando de que, okay, ¿cuál es la palabra? Y yo sé que no es la palabra adecuada, pero esa es la palabra que yo sé. So tengo que cambiar todo para usar esa palabra.
Yes, no, te entiendo completamente porque para mí es lo mismo. Esta es mi teoría. Hablamos idiomas, pero también tenemos nuestra idioma dentro de ese idioma. O sea que cuando yo hablo inglés de una manera que es Jade. Cuando hablo español, igual. Cuando hablo Spanglish, igual. Y para mí se me hace difícil cuando estoy hablando en inglés, lo siento mucho más natural porque lo estudié. Me he desarrollado más en el inglés por la escuela y por cosa de, doctor.
Y
Aquí,
la sociedad,
yeah,
claro.
la sociedad, mucho más. Puedo hablar de la política, por ejemplo, mucho más en inglés. Y es difícil encontrar mi idioma dentro del español de vez en cuando. Y no es que no pueda comunicar, pero es diferente y es distinto. Y bueno, con tiempo mejoro. Así que para ti, cuando estás trabajando, ¿qué haces? Porque hablas con alguien como si fueran tu familiar, or is there a professional thing you put on?
There is
Kind of what do you do?
definitely,
Yeah.
yeah, there is definitely a professional way,
I'm
right?
looking for tips, looking
Uh,
for tips here.
no, y tú sabes que es bien difícil algunas veces porque tenemos diferente español
Sí,
aquí en la ciudad, ¿verdad?
yeah.
Y yo he aprendido mucho y como yo no me crié en la República Dominicana, mi español, aunque sí es dominicano, tiene como mexicano y todo lo que a mí me gusta yo lo cojo de cada idioma, de cada español, ¿verdad? Y entonces algunas veces he aprendido mucho como vamos a decir, nosotros en la República Dominicana, bueno, en mi hogar, ¿verdad? Le decimos funda to a bag, right? Like a plastic bag. But you can't say that when you're speaking to like a Mexican family because that means something completely different, you know? Or like a Peruvian. Like I'm married to Daniel, who's also in this season, and he calls it una bolsa, but then to the Dominicans, that's not what I would use either. So, siempre es importante saber con quién uno está hablando y se hace más fácil cuando es uno a uno, ¿verdad? Si yo estoy hablando con una persona o con una familia, entonces es fácil, pero si estoy dando una presentación, entonces tengo que pensar, ¿cuál es la mejor manera de decir eso, verdad? Porque no lo quiero decir mal y no quiero que nadie se sienta como awkward, right?
Lo mismo me pasa, like, and actually, I wonder if this happens to you, porque conmigo en educación, because I'm also in education, I find that really challenging because I feel like now I have to look up, oh, who says this? Completely different country. This country says it completely differently. It's not even to the point where sometimes they don't even understand each other.
Yeah, and I think that part of the reason is that you're supposed to be teaching at that point. So it's not just a conversation that you're having with someone, but they expect the person who, even if you're not the teacher, just being in that field of education, they expect you to use the correct phrasing. Not like the students are learning from you, so they want to make sure that you're using the correct phrase. So I think that that also brings another layer of importance to how we're using our dialects.
Yes, in case anybody didn't get that, our heads hurt.
Constantly.
Constantly juggling.
Yeah.
Also, something else. I wonder. I don't know, because you said you like to grab different Spanish things that you like, and I love that. I do that in English too. Sometimes I say things that I'm like, I know this isn't American English, but I'm into it. Are you ever like fearful that you come off, if you say something that's Spanish that's very like this, that you come off too fancy, or on the other side, you say something that's like considered super street, but it's normal? I don't know. Do you ever have that struggle?
Oh my God, all the time, all the time. And then the problem is that even when I want to sound super professional, maybe I'm doing a presentation for families, I can't keep it up because my Spanish is just not that advanced. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to say this to sound professional, and also just because that's the field you're in. But then how do I keep it at that level? I don't want them to think that like if it like I'm just trying to be professional. Like I am professional. I just don't have the wording.
I'm
Okay.
professional and relatable, and like you can approach me. Don't I'm not stuck up, but I'm also not you know, but I'm also somebody that you should listen to. So it's like this weird balance, but it's code switching. It's code switching, you know, in the same language. It's code switching for professional and personal purposes. It's hard. So many times I'm like, oh gosh, do I use librería because that's what we use, or do I use biblioteca? And everybody goes, and I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I love that example because it's so relatable. Just I don't because people would think like just use the right word, but like that's not always the best option, you know?
It's not.
I remember when I used to do the Abriendo Puertas sessions. At the end, we do a celebration, and I would bring a cake. Well, cake, it can be said in different ways in Spanish. So I would just be like, voy a traer un pastel, un bizcocho. Like I would just name all the different ways to say it. Como ustedes le quieran decir, lo voy a traer.
How does culture impact your day-to-day at work?
Well, like I said in my intro, I consider myself a Dominican American because that's what I am. It's great because I get both the greatest part of both sides, and then I also get the bad part of both sides, right? But it's great because I'm able to see it from the American side where everything's just like go 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 and do, and I'm doing my job, and so like 3 minutes in front of someone is enough time for you to get the information you need. And then I also have my Dominican side where it's like, no, we need to catch up, even though we talked yesterday and like, ¿cómo estás? Y ¿cómo está la familia? Y los niños y todo eso. And it's like 10 minutes later and now we're getting to why you're here. So I have to like balance between those two,
Yeah.
depending on who the family is, but also making sure that just because you have a family who might not be Latino or Hispanic doesn't mean that they don't want that kind of care. So making sure that I'm kind of like weaving those two worlds together,
Yeah.
and understanding what people are expecting from me. There are some people who do grow up like that, where it's like, okay, I'm here to do my job, or I'm here to get this information from you. So hello, like, can I get this?
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it uncomfortable, but also for me, it's like, okay, you can say, like, you can ask me how I'm doing, like that doesn't take anything from your life, so kind of looking at that, and also my coworkers and how they grew up. And I have my coworkers who grew up in a similar way, and we very much relate in that. And then you have coworkers who don't. So I might be in a meeting, and my friend comes in who's also Dominican, and we're like, how are you? How are you doing? Like, when's the last time you were over there? ¿Cómo está la familia? Whatever. Que el cafecito, ¿verdad? And then you have another coworker who walks in who might not be Dominican, and then like I feel like I have to just like switch how I'm doing, just to make sure that they feel comfortable in the space as well.
And even finding in yourself the times that you need one versus the other. Oh, I need to be more like this, right? And other times I'm like, no, I need to sink into it a little bit. I need this, and I don't know that I could give you a good outline of when to do one with the other if I tried. But it's funny, and I like what you said about, listening and seeing what somebody needs, and being adaptable and amenable to those circumstances.
Being able to like balance those two, I think is an interesting dance.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, really gratifying when you can walk in those two worlds.
What's one way that Berks County and Reading can better support immigrants on a day-to-day basis?
One thing that really surprised me was the lack of public transportation. So we have a lot of immigrants, or just migrants who come in, and they have no way of getting around the city. I remember when I first arrived here, I didn't have a car, because you don't need a car when you live in New York, New York City anyway. But we have a lot of families who we require them to go to like the schools, or to go to the administration to get certain documents. And how do they get there? I mean, if they're in the elementary school or even the middle school, that's easy because it's neighborhood schools here in Reading, so they can walk there. But anywhere else that they have to go to, like, they might be a couple miles away, and they have to like spend so much time planning. Like, it's literally a whole day trip just to make it down to be able to pick up a form or anything.
Public transportation was such an important part of my everyday life with my grandmother, with my grandfather for a bit before he started driving again. And I can't imagine how we would have done anything if we didn't have readily accessible public transportation.
You know, we have residents that can't get a driver's license, you know, so what do we, you know, what options do we have for them? Like this I just feel like we could do more.
Yeah.
And we could do it better.